Hello, and welcome to my Unreal Engine 4 Space Invaders development series. In this episode, we're going to create our player. This will be a grounded laser cannon that moves left to right and shoots upwards at the aliens above it. So let's get started. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our blueprint class, and we're going to make a pawn, because this is someone we want to control, like a character. And we're going to name him something like Shooter Ship. In the actual Wikipedia page for Space Invaders, it says it's a laser cannon, but it looks more like a tank or something on the floor. So we're just going to make a basic shape for our ship with a few boxes or cubes. So we'll have one cube. Drag it out like that. That'll make a good base. And then we'll need a sort of shooter gun barrel thing as well. So we'll name that base, because that'll be helpful in the coding later. And then we'll get another cube, attach it to that, though I'm not sure that matters too much. And we're going to name it barrel, or gun barrel. And we're just going to squeeze that down and move it. And now it's kind of like a gun barrel. Although I think what we should do is probably... No. Oh, you know what? That's why we shouldn't attach it. Yeah, there we go. Separate them. So we're going to make this a little bit bigger, and that'll do. Now what we're probably going to want to do to make this a bit nice and prettier is to make another material for our ship. We'll call it ship material, and so we can make the ship a different colour to everything else. We're going to be doing color 3 vector. Actually, it's easier to type 3 first and then find it. There we go, it's constant 3 vector, sorry. And then our color, we'll make the ship a bit green. That's actually quite ugly. We'll make it a brighter green. There we go. And then we'll probably also want a different material for our gun barrel to differentiate the two parts of the ship. So we'll go back, make a gun material, and I think we'll just make this black. That's a gun color, dark. Sorry about all the wait, my computer isn't that fast. So now what we do to get the materials on the meshes is simply attach them like that, click on the base, do the same thing, ship material down there, and now what we've got is a ship looking entity. That's going to annoy me there, I'm going to move that down a bit. Or just scale it. We're looking overhead, so nothing in the Z direction really matters. There we go. We've got our ship. Now, we want to make our ship move. First thing we're going to do is go into our project settings, and we're going to set up our inputs now to make the ship actually move. I'm going to do action mappings. Add another one. I'm going to call this move right, and we'll add 2 keybinds to that. One of them will be D, because that's usually the key used to move right in video games, and then we'll have another one and it'll be the right arrow key. Brilliant. We're going to add 2 more. This one's going to be move left. And that key is going to be, no, it's easy to search on the keyboard. Scroll A, add another one, and that'll be the left key. That's all sorted. Now the third one is going to be shoot, because we're going to want the tank to be able to shoot, and that's going to be the space key, which is there. That's all sorted. There's no save key we need to click or anything. That's just there. That's fine. So what we need to do now is make a game mode. So we need to go into blueprints, game mode base. We can leave it as new blueprint, but let's just go space game for now. All we need to do in here is get the class defaults and change the default pawn class to shoot a ship. That's all. Go into the world settings, game mode override, space game, and that'll do. And now we need to work on our ship. So let's go into shoot a ship. Now what we want to be doing is making it move from right to left. So we're going to start on that now. We're going to want to be using our keyboard to control this, and we've already set up the bindings in the inputs, and they were called move left, and that'll be an input action, and move right, and while we're at it we'll just get the shoot out, but we're not going to be doing that just yet, so we'll move that away. It's important to space these out actually, so I'll move that one here. Actually, no. All these are going to do is set the variables to either true or untrue, and then we're going to use the variables in the code to actually control whether the ship is moving from right to left. So while it's pressed, move left is definitely not going to want to be changed by that, because that's move right up there. Sorry, I didn't see that. Just control paste up there. So while that's pressed, move right is going to want to be set to true, and when it's not pressed it's going to want to be set to false, and the same thing goes for move left. Copy paste it again. That's going to want to be true when pressed, untrue when not pressed. So now I've got those, we can take this event tick. Now event tick means that every frame, I believe, or second, I think frame of your game, this code is going to run. So basically it's running all the time. Whenever you click the button, it's going to run. So what we need to do is, first of all, make a branch. And this basically means that if a condition is true or false, like if move left is true or false, it's going to move left if true, because we've set it there, and not move left if false. So we're going to drag from true, and we're going to go set actor location, which is there, and the new location is going to be the actor's location, add or minus a certain vector. In the Y direction, I believe, yeah, Y direction you can see is where the left or right is. It can be in the X direction if I'd have laid it out like if the base was here, or even the Z direction if I'd have, you know what I mean. But I've put it here, so left and right is going to be the Y direction, the X direction is going to be up and down, and Z is still not going to affect anything in this 2D game. So we'll go back into shoot a ship, and while move left is active, we're going to be wanting to set the location to its location. So get actor location for that one. location. And we're going to want that location plus a certain vector. So we're going to want vector plus vector, and link that back in. And the vector we're going to want is, well, if it's move left, it's going to be negative, let's say 10 for now, in the y direction. And we'll compile that, and hopefully that should, actually, no, definitely, we need to be getting the player start in there first. Drag the player start out, make sure that's in a good position. So now what that means is the player is actually going to appear where I put that player start in. If all goes to plan, default pawn class is correct. We play. Okay, well it needs rotating first, 90 degrees in that direction, and maybe I'll drag it up just a little bit. I think we're going to be good from now. We can see that it's a bit big, but we can either stretch out the walls or just shrink the ship, and that should be good. Now, I'm hoping that if I press A right now, it'll do something. And it is. Going through the walls though, that's something we'll fix later. One thing I do want to fix now, which is going to bug me, is the shadows that the ship is producing. Because Unreal Engine 4 is really good with realistic lighting, it's going to cast a shadow on most meshes. So we're just going to come down here to lighting on both of these cubes, and for cast shadow we're going to unclick, and we'll probably end up doing this later for any meshes that are going to cast an annoying shadow. Compile that, and now no shadows. Well, some shadows, but less shadows. We'll figure that out later. So I'm going to go back into shooter ship, because obviously we don't want it only to move left, we also want it to move right. So that'll be false. And then we're going to want to put a new branch in. And this condition will be move right. And if move right is true, we're going to want to set the actor location again. And we're going to basically want to do the same exact thing here, only instead of in the negative y direction, we want it in the positive y direction. So we're going to take that negative out, and I'm hoping that that works. Compile that, go back and play, and there we go. It moves right and left, but it's still going through the walls, which is something we're going to want to remedy now. So, keep going, I'm going to cross that off. So, as well as these two variables, now we've got touching left and touching right. Now what we're going to have to do for these is go into two different blueprints to turn these variables on. Now, if the ship is touching these walls, it's going to be touching a collision box that we've put on these walls. And when it does that, we want to set it though that once it collides, which event actor begin overlap is going to be used for, a variable is going to switch from on to off, or on to on, off to on, something like that. So to do this, to get a blueprint to work with another blueprint, what we're going to need to do is first cast to shoot a ship. And basically now, this code is sharing a few things amongst itself. And from this, as shoot a ship, we can now get access to shoot a ship's variables. So touching left, we're going to want to set touching, God, I'm really bad with my left and rights today. This is the right wall, so we're going to want to set touching right. It is not going well. Set touching right. There we go. Right, so we're going to link that up, and touching right is going to be on. We're going to do the same thing for the left wall on actor begin overlap. We're going to want to cast it to shoot a ship. It's really important to get the object wildcard linked up to the other actor, otherwise it's not going to work. And now when it's touching, the variable is going to be switched on. However, that doesn't mean that the wall is going to stop the shooter ship, because we haven't actually put the code into this blueprint yet. And that is what we're going to do now. So we're going to need to set some more branches. And this branch is going to say, if it is touching left, then it can't go any further left. If it is touching right, it can't go any further right. And that should hopefully be pretty simple to implement. So we're going to link that up, and then link false up, because if it's false, we do want it to move. So wait, this is the left one, right? I'm assuming. Yeah, it is. Really cautious of that now, since I've messed that up about twice. So we're going to get touching left, and we're going to link that up. So if touching left is false, it's not going to move any more left. Now, I'm hoping this works. It does not work. Why is that? Could be something, yeah, it might be because these walls aren't stretched high enough. So we're going to want to make sure that the walls actually hit the player, because I've actually put it quite high up. It's really hard when you're trying to make a two-dimensional game in 3 dimensions. There we go. Now this might work. If it doesn't, I think all we need to do is just put a box collision, like we have on these walls, on the player. Right, so we'll do that. Yeah, about there. So something is clearly going wrong. Okay, so I jumped out of the video to figure out what was wrong, and there are a few things wrong. One of the main things is that for some reason I've put left wall on the right and right wall on the left. So we'll just change that. That really doesn't help us from a coding point of view. I actually fixed everything in a 20-minute previous video I just did, and then at the end realised I wasn't recording for the whole thing. So I've had to undo everything I've done to go through it again. So this should be good. Also, what we've done in the left wall is this event actor begin overlap thing. Completely delete that. That was the reason why it wasn't working, or one of the reasons. What we need to be doing is going into our box collision, and we're going to do this for both of them as well. And we're going to get our begin overlap and our end overlap functions. And then what we're going to do with those is basically the same thing we did with the other overlap function. So we're going to cast to shoot a ship. Remember to link up the object wildcard to other actor. That's really important. We'll copy paste that. And then as shoot a ship, we're going to get the variable. You know what, I'm just going to check if we are recording, because that freaked me out. As shoot a ship, we're going to get our touching left variable, and we're going to set it, and we're going to set it to true. And then we're going to do the same thing, only we're going to set it back to false. And now, when we go into the left wall, it's not going to go through anymore. It's still going to go through the right wall because we haven't coded that yet. So now what we need to do is go into our right wall and do the exact same thing. We can maybe even copy the code. Most of it. We'll have to change a few things. So we'll delete that. I'm hoping that this box and the left wall's box isn't going to be a problem. If so, that's easy to fix. We're going to delete these variables and get the touching right variable instead. Set that. Copy, paste, then link all of these up like so. And then we're going to want to set that to true and leave that as untrue. And that's not going to work if we press play still because, as I'm aware, I'm not sure because I've taken so many takes of this video without realizing it wasn't recording. But yeah, we haven't set up the variable of it actually touching the wall in the shooter ship code yet. That's pretty simple. All we need to do is just get a branch, get our touching right variable. Sorry about that. Get our touching right variable. Link that up to that. Still link it up to true, but we're going to want this to be false. Because if it is touching right, if it's true, we don't want anything to happen. So we'll leave it like that. Now we'll go back into our game. It's not going to go through the left wall. It's not going to go through the right wall. That is all fine. If I haven't already said, everything we did in the video before I cut off is still fine. It's still helpful, whether in this video or other videos later in the series. So everything before I cut off, keep that the same. So now what we want to do is fire our bullets. We want to press space and fire bullets up in the air. Now in a previous take I've already made the material for the bullet, but we haven't actually made the bullet in this take yet. So what we need to do is have an actor, and that'll be our good bullet, because later in the game we're going to have bad bullets coming from the aliens downwards. And this actor is going to be a cube. Well, it's not, it's going to be a plane, but we're going to squeeze it down like that. And so we're going to squeeze it down to just 2 dimensions and then stretch it out. We're going to want it a bit smaller than that. Depends, we can always change it later if it doesn't work. And then we're going to want a projectile movement. Now this is going to move the cube in a certain direction. Also we're going to want to get the material I made in a different take of this and attach it to that. I basically did the same thing I did for the other materials, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to figure that out. So in the projectile movement, we're going to want our initial speed to be 1000. And our max speed to be 1000. That means there's going to be no change in speeds. There's going to be no acceleration or anything like that. The bullet's just going to be the same speed no matter what. We're going to want no gravity, because it's a 2D game. We don't need it to be that realistic. That's just going to mess it up too much, so we're going to leave that out. All of this doesn't affect it too much, so we can leave that. And as I believe, I'm just checking, yes, the X direction is what we already want it to be in. So this is the default anyway, because we want it going up, and as Y is left and right, X will be up and down. So that's 1 in the positive X direction. So this bullet will fly up as soon as we code it in our shooter ship blueprint. So what we do for here, it's pretty simple. All we need to do is spawn an actor from class when the spacebar is pressed. The actor is going to be our bullet, well, a good bullet, but got it there. And our transform, we're going to want it to come out of our gun barrel. So we're going to want to get location of that. And then, even though it's a location going into a transform, UE4 will just convert that for us. We compile that. Hopefully, when we press space, yeah, bullets coming. It looks like it's 2 bullets, but it's not. It's just because we haven't disabled the shadows on the cube, which I'll do now. And now, yeah. So now we just need to rotate our bullet 90 degrees, and then it'll come out like a narrow rectangle. It doesn't look too great now, but we can easily change that later. What we can do as well is make a sound happen when we shoot. So we can play a sound at the location. Sound could be anything you want. I'm just going to have an explosion for now. So I've already done this in a previous take, and I'm just doing this to show you how awful that would be if we actually did this. Yeah, I hate that. So we're not going to have that, but in a later video we could import our own sounds into the game. So if you wanted to, you could throw a few pew pew pews into your microphone, and then we could convert that into sounds that Unreal Engine can use, and then you could have your own game sounds in the game. But that is where we're going to end the video for now. If you want to learn more about making Space Invaders, just click the next video in the playlist.